Ready to return the juries?
Yes,
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so bring them back in, please. Welcome back. Lunch was good? All right, very good. Call your next witness.
David call Keener Oates.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Have a seat.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Can you tell the jury your name and tell our court reporter how to spell it?
My name is Kiana Denise Oates, KeyunerDennisoAteS.
Ms. Oates, you live here in Ocala?
Yes.
What type of work do you do?
I'm a bus driver, a HCA, intensive reading teacher, and a substitute teacher.
Stay busy.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Cloud 9 nightclub?
Yes.
How are you familiar with Cloud 9?
I used to go there.
Often?
Yes.
Were you there on September 13th, 2015?
Yes, sir.
Why did you go there that night?
To hang out with friends and party.
Who were you meeting there? Who did you go with?
My fiance was supposed to meet me there, and me and Dee Dee Webster was going there to Cloud 9.
You said Dee Dee Webster?
Yes.
How do you know Ms. Webster?
Through friends.
So you said you're going to go there, party, have fun?
Yes, sir.
Did you have fun there that night?
No.
About what time did you get there?
After 11.
When you got there, were a lot of people there?
Yes.
Did you go inside the club?
Went inside.
When you got inside, did you see anybody that you know?
Yes.
Are you from Ocala?
Yes, I'm from Ocala.
You know a lot of people?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you been a bus driver for a long time?
Off and on. At different schools.
You know somebody named Maisha Barrow?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Maisha?
I think she went to CERMI when I was working there.
CERMI's the Silver
Alternative
River
school.
Marine. And did you drive her on the bus?
I don't think I drove Maisha, but I remember her from being at the school.
You know somebody named Laquan Barrow?
I don't know him personally, but I've seen him before.
Do you see him in court today?
Yes.
You describe what he's wearing for the jury.
White collared shirt and a tie.
May the record reflect she's identified Mr. Barrow.
The record will so reflect.
Do you know Gary King?
I don't know him personally, but I know him from around.
Okay. Do you see Mr. King in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you describe his clothing for the jury?
Black collared shirt and tie.
What kind of tie? Long tie or bow tie?
Colorful with blue and
Is it the kind that comes all the way down like I'm wearing, or a little bow tie?
it looks like it's all the way down.
May the record reflect she's identified Gary King.
The record will so reflect.
Do you know somebody named Michael Smith?
No, I do not.
Do you know somebody named Danielle Kendrick?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Ms. Kendrick?
I know her from around, and her sister has kids from my brother.
Do you know somebody named Nathaniel Kendrick?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Nathaniel Kendrick?
I know him from going to school with him when I was younger, and he has also had the sister of my brother's kids.
Okay. While you were in Cloud 9, was there a fight?
Yes.
Okay. Were you close to the fight?
No, I wasn't close.
Okay. About how far away from it were you?
From this stand to maybe the black box.
Were you able to see who was fighting?
No, I didn't.
Could you tell how many people were fighting?
No, I couldn't tell how many people.
Could you tell whether they were men, women, both?
I didn't see that part. No.
Did you see when the fight was broken up?
I saw people trying to break it up.
Do you know who was trying to break it up?
No, just a bunch of people.
What happened after the fight?
They were trying to get people out. I guess they died down, and I saw Nathaniel Kendrick in the club, and I asked him, was he okay? What was going on?
Did you go outside that night?
Yes, I did.
When you got outside, what was going on?
When I got outside, there was people in the parking lot, still hanging out.
Where were you?
I walked out the club. I walked into the parking lot. I walked around a little bit, and then I was going back towards the front of the club by the road.
Did you hear anybody saying anything?
When me and Dee Dee Webster was walking through the parking lot from the front of the club to the right, in that parking area, we were walking around, and it was people talking over in that area when we was walking around.
Did you hear any of them say anything?
When I looked over that way, Quan had on a white tank top or a t-shirt, and he was saying, "Give me the stick, give me the stick." And we were walking, when we started walking back towards the front of the club.
When you say that you were in the parking lot, can you describe your location in the parking lot?
Well, from the front of the club to the right, where the cars are parked, we was walking around that area, not all the way to the fence, which separates that parking lot from the other building.
Are you talking? Let me go ahead if I can show you a diagram. May the witness step down, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Honor to hear these oaths. I'm going to give you a little laser pointer so you can stand back a little bit. All you got to do to work it, just hit that little button in the middle, it'll point, okay? Now, using the pointer, can you show the jury where it was that you walked to after you came out? Here, step over a little bit.
We came out here, and we were walking around here, and we were back over in this area. And then we're up in here, and then we walked back up here towards the vehicle.
The vehicle. There was a vehicle up here near the front of the club.
Right in here.
Remember what kind of vehicle that was?
No, it wasn't a truck, it was just like a car.
That was right up in there?
No, right up in here.
Okay, so more toward the middle of the club.
Yeah, like when you come out the door, right over in here.
Now, you have described knowing and being familiar with Mr. Barrow and Mr. King. Can you show the jury where approximately they were standing?
Right over in this area.
Did you see any vehicles that night?
Yes, yes.
Did any vehicle later catch your attention?
The vehicle that they were standing in front of that night, when they were talking.
What did that vehicle look like?
It was a black car.
You showed the jury where that was.
The black car was over in this area.
So kind of here off the southeast corner,
Yes.
near the part of the parking lot toward 441.
Yeah, closer to that area, like right over in this area, right here.
You see like a little dark colored square on the pavement there?
Yeah.
Is it around that?
said it could have been right here, but I know we were back in this area when we were walking around.
Okay, stay right there. I'm going to get you another diagram here. This is that same area, but a little bit closer in. This is State's Exhibit 2. Now, you can see that little dark colored square in the pavement there?
Yeah.
Are you able to, does this help you at all explain to the jury where that car was located?
Can I use my pointer?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
That area is a good area. It could have been it.
Okay, so as we're looking at this, kind of, you have it, you were circling a little to the left here of that black square.
Yeah, that's the parking area.
And it was parked in that row.
If it was parked there, it wasn't parked correctly.
This is in the parking area, you think?
Yeah. Yes,
But it could.
it could have been. Yes, sir.
Now you described seeing another car in front of the club. You showed on the larger diagram for the jury where that was.
Like right up in here.
Were there any other vehicles kind of parked along the sidewalk?
No, not that I remember. It could have been something parked over here on the side, a vehicle, but up in here, no, it was just that one vehicle because I was standing to the road when they were shooting.
On the road side of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So should we go ahead and be seated? So describe to the jury what happens once you're on the kind of the road side of the car.
When I'm walking up towards the roadside, people start shooting.
Where did the, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I thought they were shooting in the air. I didn't know the bullets was coming the way I was standing.
Did you see anybody shooting?
No, I didn't.
Can you describe what direction the gunfire was coming from?
From the right side of the club.
Okay. So if you were looking at the club, is it to the left or the right?
If I'm standing in front of the club, it's to the left. But if I'm coming out of the club, it's to the right.
Was it on the sidewalk area, the parking lot area, or somewhere else?
It wasn't on the sidewalk area because I was there. So they wasn't coming behind me. They were coming from in front of me.
If you can estimate, Ms. Oates, how many shots do you think you heard that night?
I have no idea.
Did you write a tag number of a vehicle down that night?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, why did you do that?
Because that was the vehicle that the guys were standing in front of before the shooting started.
After writing that down, did you stay there at Cloud9 or did you leave and go somewhere else?
After I wrote that down, I got in the car and went to, I think, the BP right up the road on the corner and talked to the police.
What was the police officer doing up there?
I don't remember.
May the record reflect I'm showing defense counsel listed marked as State's Exhibit CCC. So I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit CCC. Can you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize it?
That's the number I wrote down.
And is that the piece of paper you wrote it on?
Yes, sir.
Did you later give that to a detective?
Yes, sir.
And does that item appear to be in the same condition as when you gave it to the detective?
Yes, sir.
At this time, the state would move State's Exhibit CCC into evidence as State's, are we at 46?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
No objection.
State's Exhibit CCC for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 50.
Ms. Oates, did you know Benitria Robinson?
Yes, sir.
Did you see her there that night?
Yes, sir.
Did you see her before the shooting?
Yes, sir.
Where did you see her beforehand?
Outside, coming outside.
Did you see her after the shooting?
Yes, sir.
How well did you know Benitria?
I had a class with her at the college, and I knew her as being a nice person.
Go ahead and tell us what the tag number was that you wrote down that night.
BXQX50.
O or 0?
O or 0.
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Bankowitz.
Thank you, Judge. The car that you wrote that tag number down from, was it the car that you said was right in front by the front door?
No, sir.
It was the one off into the
Yes.
parking lot? Okay. And who was standing by that car? You said people.
Yes.
Do you know the people, first of all?
I know the people that I seen standing.
Who did
by
you
the
see?
vehicle, some of them, not all of them.
I'm sorry?
I don't know all of them.
Okay, who do you know that was standing by the car?
Gary was standing by the car, and Quan.
Okay.
was standing by-
Did you see either of those gentlemen have a gun?
No, sir.
Did you see them fire any shots from that distance
No, sir.
toward the front door?
No, sir.
You didn't see anybody do any shooting, did you?
No, sir.
Did you ever see anybody go into the vehicle?
No, sir.
Did you ever see him get anything out of the vehicle, like reaching into the window or anything
No,
like
sir.
that? When you heard the words, "Give me the stick," what did that mean to you?
You say what it means to me?
Yes?
Give me the gun.
And is that a common term for a gun?
Yes?
But you didn't see any guns?
No.
Okay. And did you, at any time prior to the shots being fired, inside the club, see anyone with a gun?
No, sir.
Did you see Gary King inside the club?
No, sir.
So the first time you saw him, he was already outside by the car?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have at this time, Judge.
Mr. Gorley?
Thank you. Ms. Oates, if I heard you correctly, your sister's has children, or your brother has children with, what's the relationship with you and Dee Dee?
There is no relationship. Which Dee Dee are you talking?
Dee Dee, Danielle Kendrick.
My brother has children by her sister.
Okay. So you're the aunt of those children.
Yes.
And your friend, Dee Dee Webster, is related to Benitria, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if I heard you correctly, when you heard this statement, you were in the parking lot over by the fence when you heard that Mr. Barrow say, "Get the sticks."
No, sir.
You were walking over in that area, then you came back
I was
around
coming back.
from that area.
Yes, sir. I didn't go all the way to the fence.
Okay. But you were in the parking lot area
Yes, sir.
that was on that diagram where the parking spaces
Yes, sir.
were when you heard Mr. Barrow say, "Get the sticks."
Give me the stick.
Give me the stick. Okay. Do you know who Kiara Scott is?
No.
And at that, you indicated my client was wearing a white T-shirt?
It's like a white beater. It's like a male tank top.
A white tank top?
Yeah.
And he was wearing that when you heard him make the statement?
Yes, sir.
Give me the stick,
Yes, sir.
over by the parking lot area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever see a large individual, even bigger than Mr. Barrow, in a white T-shirt attempting to hold him back from getting into an argument or anything?
No.
Did you see a truck in that parking lot next to the black car?
No, sir. I don't remember.
The only car that you remember is the black car?
Yes, sir. The car they was standing in front of.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Now, you went to the club that night with Dee Dee Webster?
Yeah.
Okay. She's a close friend of yours?
We're good friends.
Okay. And did you drink alcohol at the club that night?
Yeah. I think I had like 1 cup. I don't know if I finished it
Okay.
before the.
And you and Dee Dee were together prior to going to the club, correct?
Yes.
All right. Did you have any drinks with Dee Dee prior to going to the club?
At my house,
Yes.
I could have.
Okay. Do you remember having any alcohol?
Yeah, I had alcohol.
Okay. Do you know how much or what you were drinking at your house?
Probably Belvedere Intense at my house before I left.
Okay. Belvedere and
Intense.
what is that?
It's in a black bottle.
Okay. And what type of alcohol is that?
It's a vodka.
Okay. Did you mix it with anything?
Probably pineapple juice.
Okay. And how many of those do you think you had before you went to the nightclub?
1 cup.
1 cup. And was Dee Dee drinking with you at your house?
Yes.
Do you know how many drinks she had?
No, I don't.
Did you talk to Dee Dee about this incident?
No.
Okay. You never mentioned anything to her about what happened at the club?
No.
There come a time where you gave information to the state that she might be a witness?
Can you repeat that?
Did you ever give information to the police that Dee Dee Webster might be a witness in this case?
Did I tell the police? I told the people here, the attorney.
Okay. That Dee Dee was there?
Yes.
But prior to that, you and Dee Dee never talked about anything involving?
No.
She never told you anything about
No.
what she saw?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawthorne?
person that you identified as Mr. Barrow, and you described the clothing that he was wearing that evening, you described what I believe you said was a white T-shirt?
It's like a tank top, not a whole T-shirt.
Okay. And would it be reasonable to describe Mr. Barrow as a large man?
He's not that large.
Is he skinny?
No, he's not skinny either.
Okay. Now, my client, Michael Smith,
I don't know him.
you didn't see him there that evening?
No, I don't know him. I don't remember seeing him before.
Okay. Did you see a tall person also standing with these gentlemen?
It could have been. I don't remember.
How about another man in a T-shirt with writing on it? Did you see that person?
A T-shirt with writing?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't remember.
No?
It was more people standing in front of the car with them, but I don't know.
Okay, you don't know those people. And the person that you heard making the statements, do you have any doubt as to who that was?
No,
And you have said before that, you said here today that it was Mr. Barrow?
yes,
Didn't you previously in a deposition say that you thought it was Mr. Barrow?
yes.
Okay. Is that, you were sure it was
Yeah,
Mr.
it was
Barrow?
him.
Did you ever see Mr. Barrow wearing camouflage pants?
No, I didn't pay attention to his pants.
Did you ever see him in a black T-shirt?
No, I didn't see him in a black T-shirt.
Did you see him in any other clothing besides the tank top? What was he wearing on the bottom?
I didn't pay attention to the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Any redirect? All right. Is she excused? All right, ma'am, you can go about your business. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Have a seat. Mr. McCord?
Good afternoon. Can you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the court reporter?
Officer George Drew Hundley, Jr. with the Ocala Police Department.
Can you go ahead and spell that?
Drew, D-R-U-E, Hundley, H-U-N-L-E-Y.
How long have you been with the police department for?
Going on 15 years.
What is your current assignment with them?
Patrol,
How long have you been in the patrol division for?
15 years.
What do you do day to day as a member of the patrol division?
Every call that comes out, patrol is the first to respond. So it'd be a robbery, alarm, security, whatever it is.
I want to turn your attention back to September 13th, 2015, the early morning hours. Were you working then?
Yes, sir.
Did you get dispatched to the area of the Cloud 9 nightclub?
Yes, sir, we did.
Do you remember where you were before you were dispatched?
I have no idea.
When you got to the area, can you tell the jury what it is that you did there?
While we were responding to the area, several officers were already on scene, and a request was made for other officers that are not there to block off traffic at Southwest 17th Street and Pine to keep additional traffic from going to the units that were already there.
And that would keep southbound traffic on 441 from passing the nightclub?
That is correct.
Did you do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And when you're directing traffic, what do you do? Or what did you do that night?
We were directing traffic, keeping them from going down there, and while I was there, I was approached by a female stating that she had witnessed she was at the Cloud 9 shooting.
And do you know that person's name?
Yes, sir. It was Keanu Oates.
Did she ask to talk to you?
Yes, sir, she did.
What happened?
She stated that she was afraid that somebody might see her talking to police, so she actually requested to sit in the back seat of my patrol car while she talked with me, which I allowed her to do. She stated that she had witnessed an unknown black male at the shooting, and then he left in a black car, and she provided me the tag number, was BXQX50. I then relayed this information to our dispatch, as well as requested a deputy respond since the Cloud 9 was actually their jurisdiction.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Cross? Mr. Bankwitz?
She said it was an unknown black male?
Yes, sir.
She had no idea who it was, just they were in a black car, and she got the tag number.
Correct.
Thank Thank you, sir.
No questions, Your Honor.
No questions, sir.
Any redirect? Excused? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Danielle Kendrick. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat. Ms. Kipke.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You don't have to speak up, okay?
Good afternoon.
Can you tell the jury your name and spell it for the record?
Danielle Kendrick, Danielle, Kendrick, Kendrick.
Are you currently employed, Ms. Kendrick?
No, ma'am.
Are you married?
Yes, ma'am.
How is your husband employed?
McDonald's.
Okay. Do you have kids?
Yes.
How many?
4.
What are their ages?
8, 5, 4, and 2 months.
2 months. Okay. You currently live in Marion County?
Yes.
How long have you lived in Marion County?
All my life.
Okay. Are you related to Nathaniel Kendrick?
Yes.
How are you related to
My
Nathaniel?
brother.
Okay. Is he older or younger than you?
Older.
Are you familiar with a female by the name of Maisha Barrow?
Yes.
How are you familiar with her?
I'm seeing her around and on Facebook.
Okay. How long do you think you've been familiar with Miss Barrow?
I really don't have a clue.
Okay. Has it been a couple years?
Probably. I don't.
Okay. Do you know her brother, Laquan Barrow?
From Facebook.
Okay. Does he go by a certain Facebook name?
Juan Sosa.
Okay. Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
White shirt.
Okay. Second person in at the table?
Ma'am.
Is he the second person in at the table in the white shirt?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record reflect the witnesses identified Laquan Barrow.
The record will so reflect.
Are you familiar with a person by the name of Gary King?
Just seeing him on Facebook.
Okay. Have you seen him in person too?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
What is he wearing?
A black shirt.
Can you further specify, like what kind of tie is he wearing?
Black, white, and gray.
Okay. Is it a regular tie, a long tie?
Long tie.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identified Gary King.
The record will so reflect.
Are you familiar with a person by the name of Michael Eugene Smith?
No, I think I seen him the same night of the club.
Okay. Was that the first time you would have seen him?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you describe what he's wearing?
Black shirt with a small tie.
Okay. Is that a bow tie?
Yes.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identify Mr. Smith.
The record will reflect that identification.
Did you go to Cloud 9 the night of the shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
Who did you go with?
Ebony Yomis.
Anybody else with you?
No.
Okay. How did you get there?
Ebony's car.
Okay. Who drove?
Ebony.
Do you know approximately what time you guys arrived?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember where you parked?
No, ma'am.
Okay. When you got there, was it crowded or not so crowded yet?
Not so crowded.
Did you get inside?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened once you got inside the club?
We walked in and I don't really remember, like, walked in the club.
Okay. Once you walked inside, did you see other people that you knew?
Yes.
Who do you remember seeing when you first got there?
Ebony niece.
Ebony's niece? Is
Yes.
that what you said? Okay. Eventually, did you see your brother,
No.
Nathaniel?
No, ma'am.
Did you see him ever inside the club?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't see him inside the club.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Barrow inside the club?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Mr. King inside the
No,
club?
ma'am.
Did you see Mr. Smith inside the club?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you see Maisha Barrow inside the
Yes,
club?
ma'am.
Eventually, did something happen between the two of you inside the club?
Yes.
What happened?
A fight.
Okay. How did that start?
She walked up to me and swung, and I swung.
Okay. Did either of you make contact with each other during the fight? Did you actually hit each other?
Yes.
Okay. Did something break that up?
actually know her brother Quan, and I don't know, it was some other dudes, I guess, was hitting on me,
Okay,
should I say.
okay. So other people joined the fight that started between you and Maisha?
Yes.
Okay, and one of those people was Laquan, her brother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get hit by any of these other people that joined in on the fight?
I don't know, I hit the ground.
Okay. How did that all end? Inside the club? Eventually, did the fighting stop? Did people stop hitting each other?
Yes, I guess, I don't know who grabbed me and grabbed her. They put us out at the same time.
Okay, so you guys ended up outside the club?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Once you were outside the club, who else did you recognize was out there with you?
Ebony?
Okay. Was Maisha out there?
Yes.
Was Laquan out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Mr. Smith out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever see Mr. King that night?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What happened once you guys, that group was all outside?
It was an argument.
Between who?
Me and Maisha and Quan.
Okay. Is it fair to say the fight kind of started up again?
Yes.
And was it just between the three of you, or did anybody else join in on that?
Just the three of us.
Okay. Did that get broken up?
Yes.
How?
It was so many people, and I guess the bouncers.
Okay. So you were physically removed from each other?
Then
Is that a yes?
Ma'am.
Okay. What happened after that?
she was still trying to get to me after the bouncer had me.
Okay. When you say she, are you talking about Maisha?
Maisha.
Okay. What happened after that?
I really can't remember what happened right after that. I don't.
Did Nate show up at some point in time outside?
Yes.
Okay. What was going on the first time you remember seeing him outside the club?
I seen him. He said, if you're gonna shoot, nigga, shoot.
Who is he saying that to?
Quan.
Okay. So that was your brother Nathaniel saying that to Laquan.
Yes, ma'am.
And where were you positioned in front of the club to hear that?
I wasn't too far from him.
From who?
My brother or Quan. It was
Okay. Where were you in relation to the front door of the club?
not too far from the door.
Okay. Can the witness step down?
Yes, ma'am.
When that statement was said by your brother to Laquan, where was everybody? Okay. And where were you in relation? Show us where you were. Okay, so you're right behind Nathaniel. And where was Mr. Barrow? Okay. And are you guys facing each other? Yes. Okay. And what happens after that your brother makes that statement? Okay, so right after that statement, the shooting started? Okay. Did Mr. Barrow move from his position? Okay. After your brother said those words and you saw Laquan with a gun, had Mr. Barrow moved before that? Sure. You said, Nathaniel said the words, if you're gonna shoot, right? Did Mr. Barrow move before he put his shot up to the sky? Okay. Okay, so you said first what happened was Mr. Barrow shot up in the air, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what, well, then what did he do?
Pointed at my brother.
Did he fire again?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see after that happened, the second shot?
I couldn't see anything because I got hit and I hit the ground face
Okay,
first.
Okay. So as soon as the second shot happened, you felt you got hit and you hit the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was Nate in front of you when that happened?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see what happened with him?
What you mean?
Did he fall? Did he move after the second
No,
shot?
he just said he's hit. And
Okay.
I guess whoever grabbed, I don't know who grabbed him and whatever happened. I don't know, I hit the ground, I was face first.
Okay. Were you still facing towards the parking lot or had you turned around?
I turned around.
Okay. And then you went down face
Yes.
first? Okay. Did you move after hitting the ground the first time?
Some girls grabbed me and pulled me inside the club door.
Okay. And were you all the way inside the club at this point?
Like, right when you walk inside the door, like right the entrance.
Okay. Did Nathaniel eventually come closer to you where you had been drugged to the... What happened after you were pulled into the doorway of the club?
Someone picked me up and put me in a car and took me to the hospital.
Okay. And that's how you got to the hospital, not by ambulance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was the first hospital that you went to?
Monroe.
Okay. And eventually, did you go to another hospital?
Shands.
Okay. And how long were you there before you were discharged?
3 days.
Okay. The bullet that hit you, is it still in your body today?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is it located?
In my back.
Does it give you problems still to this day?
Yes, ma'am.
What type of problems do you experience?
Really can't do nothing. Can't live for my kids or anything.
Okay. Does it cause you pain?
Yes.
Do you have to take anything for the pain?
I haven't been back to the doctor. I have an appointment next week.
Okay. Later on the same day of the shooting, when you were in Shands, did detectives come and talk to you?
Yes.
Did they show you a lineup?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Showing defense has been marked for identification states 00.
Jennifer, let me see that quick after he's done that.
Kendrick, I'm showing you it's been marked for identification as states 00. Do you recognize this first page?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it have your signature on it?
Yes.
And it's stapled to another page. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it have your initials on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you circle a picture on this page?
Yes, ma'am.
And who is that a picture of?
Laquan.
released from the hospital, the detectives come speak with you again and show you 2 more lineups.
Yes.
Showing defense counsel states QQ and PP for identification. First, Ms. Kendrick, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as states QQ. You recognize the top page?
Yes, ma'am.
Is your signature on that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the second page, do you recognize that page?
Yes.
Are your initials on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you identify a picture on that page?
Yes, ma'am.
And who did you identify that to be?
Michael.
States PP. Do you recognize the first page?
Yes.
Is your name on the first page?
Yes.
You recognize the second page?
Yes.
Are your initials on the second page?
Yes.
Do you identify somebody on this page?
Yes.
And who do you identify on this page?
Gary.
One moment, Your Honor. Ms. Kendrick, prior to the shooting, do you remember seeing Mr. Barrow go into a car in the parking lot?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember while you were in the hospital speaking with a female police officer from the Ocala Police Department?
No, I don't remember.
No further questions.
Mr. Bankowitz?
Now, Ms. Kendrick, I represent Mr. King, and you know Gary King, right? I mean, not good friends, but you know who he is, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you got to the club that night, did you see Mr. King there?
No, sir.
Did you see him inside the club at all?
No, sir.
At any time that night, did you see Gary King?
No, sir.
When the shooting occurred, was he out front with Mr. Barrow and Mr. Smith?
I never paid attention to, I just was paying attention to who I was getting in an argument with.
Okay, so when Nathaniel was shot, did you see Mr. King shoot him?
No.
You didn't see Mr. King at all, right?
No, sir.
Anytime, inside or outside the club?
No, sir.
He wouldn't have been standing next to Mr. Barrow shooting a gun?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Gorley?
Please, court, counsel. Ms. Kendrick, is it fair to say that you and Maisha don't like each other?
I never had any beef with her.
Back in July, prior to this incident, you didn't have any altercations with her?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you remember giving a statement to Detective Scala?
About,
Maisha?
not that I know of.
Okay. When you made your identification in the hospital, you were interviewed as to what happened, correct?
That night?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And when you made that statement, do you recall telling the detective that you weren't involved in the fight?
Yes, I didn't remember anything.
Okay. But you remember telling the detective?
That I don't remember anything?
No, that you weren't involved in a fight that night?
That I wasn't?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you were actually involved in a fight at Cloud 9 with Maisha, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when you told the detective that
I
night,
didn't remember anything that night that happened until I got home.
okay. And when you were being interviewed, the detective asked you about getting in an altercation outside the club, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember telling him that you didn't get in an altercation with a bouncer?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember telling him and him asking you about pepper spray?
I don't remember about the pepper spray.
Okay. You don't remember telling him that you don't even have pepper spray? You don't own pepper spray?
I don't remember. I don't even carry pepper spray.
All right. That you didn't carry it because you didn't have a purse?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember him asking you whether you pepper sprayed one of the bouncers?
No, sir.
Now, you were struck with a bullet, and where did that bullet enter your body at?
Next to my spine.
Okay, from the back?
Yes, sir.
And at the time that that occurred, your brother was standing in front of you, correct?
Yes.
Do you know whether that bullet went through him and hit you?
Yes. Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When I heard your testimony in regards to where you were standing, you indicated that it was you, your brother, and Quan in relatively close distance to each other, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that distance would be representative of what you showed on there as far as how far he was away when he shot in the air and shot you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as that distance that you demonstrated on the thing, would that be from me to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And from that vantage point, you were able to see Mr. Barrow fire a gun in the air
Yes, sir.
and then lower the gun
Yes, sir.
and shoot your brother.
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that shooting, you were hit from behind.
Yes, sir.
This, from your demonstration, occurred pretty far from the entrance of the club. Somebody carried you all the way from that point to the entrance of the club?
They dragged me.
They dragged you?
Yes.
Okay, so that 20 feet or so, or however far it was, you were dragged?
It's like right there where we were standing at, like I didn't move so far from my brother when he got hit. I fell, turned around, fell face first, and someone grabbed me,
Okay.
put me in.
Isn't it true that that actually occurred closer to the entrance, not where you showed this jury?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Isn't it true that you fell closer to the entrance
No, I fell, turned around and fell face first.
and tried to crawl into the entrance?
I couldn't move.
Okay, what about your brother? Same spot, couldn't move?
I guess he ran inside, and I don't know how he.
Okay. And I heard from your testimony that when your brother came out, that he said, "Shoot, nigger, shoot."
If you gonna shoot, nigga, shoot.
If you don't,
If you gonna shoot, nigga, shoot.
okay. And was that soon after he came out?
As soon as he came out.
As soon as he came out of the door? If you're gonna shoot, nigger, shoot.
Yes, sir.
All right. While that was going on, did you ever, first off, do you know an individual by the name of Kiara Scott?
No, sir.
Do you remember the clothes that Quan was wearing that evening?
No, sir.
Did you ever observe a large individual with a white T-shirt holding Quan back? Pushing him back?
No, sir.
So, if I'm understanding your testimony correctly, Nate came out of the club, saw Quan, said, "Shoot, nigga, shoot."
If you're gonna shoot, nigga,
I'm
shoot.
sorry. If
If,
you're gonna shoot, nigga, shoot.
yes,
And immediately shot in the air and then shots. Have you and Maisha fought before?
no, sir.
Did you throw a drink on her that night?
No, sir.
Push her on her that night?
No, sir.
Okay. Did any of your friends do that?
No, sir.
Did you see how the fight started
What
with
you,
Maisha?
what you mean?
Inside the club,
She walked up to me.
to you.
Yes.
And what did she do to you?
Swung.
Swung at you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when Detective Scala talked to you in the hospital? When you made your identification?
A lot of people came up there talking to me.
Okay. Do you remember telling him that Maisha pushed one of your friends
No, sir.
and started a fight with your best friend's niece from Orlando?
No.
Okay. Judge, I have no more questions for Ms. Kendrick.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Good afternoon, Ms. Kendrick. Ms. Kendrick, before September 13th, 2015, you only knew Michael Smith as having seen him in your neighborhood.
Yes.
That's reasonable?
I seen him that same night.
Yes,
Seen-
but before that, you didn't really know him, you'd only seen him in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on September 13th, you had gone to Cloud9 with your girlfriend?
Best friend.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Okay. And you got there about 11:30, 11:45?
Somewhere around there.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Somewhere around there.
All right. And you and your friends were hanging out, having a good time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say that this fight started like 5 minutes after you got there?
Probably. Yes.
Okay. And so did you have any time to have any alcohol while you were there?
No, sir. I mean, no, ma'am.
So you arrive at about 11:45 p.m. on September 12th. And this fight starts about 5 minutes after you get there?
Yes.
That's your recollection?
I don't know when the fight started. I don't really know.
Okay. Now, were any other fights going on in the club?
No, ma'am.
Was this fight on the dance floor?
Yes.
And someone by the name of Maisha,
Yes, ma'am.
you and Maisha got into a fight.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've gotten into fights with her before?
No, ma'am.
Never?
Never.
You and Maisha don't have a reputation of being very aggressive towards one another?
No, ma'am.
Not physically aggressive?
No, ma'am.
So you get involved in a fight with Maisha in the middle of the floor of this club that night for no reason.
She just walked up to me.
And,
She swung and I swung.
okay. And so while you two were swinging at each other, did anybody come along, like security, to break it up?
I don't know who they was. It was people, like, a crowd of people.
Other people were there coming in to try to break you two up?
Yes.
Okay. And was your brother there that night?
I didn't see him that night. I don't know. I was fighting.
You didn't, okay. While you were fighting on the floor, your brother wasn't there getting involved as well?
I don't know. After the fight, they kicked us out the club. I didn't see nobody. I seen my brother once. I got outside.
Okay, so you didn't see your brother being involved in the club, either trying to break up the fight or getting into a fight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so you didn't see anything else? Lights go on and people are being told to get out of the club, that it's closing?
Someone escorted us out the club. I didn't.
Security?
I don't know who it was.
Do you remember
Someone
how they
grabbed
were-
me from behind.
Okay. And they escorted you outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where was your car parked?
I can't remember where we parked at.
All right. Had you had any alcohol before you got to the club?
No, ma'am.
And you hadn't had any alcohol when you got to the club?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you hadn't had any alcohol that night?
No, ma'am.
All right. And after you get into this fight, as you're being escorted out of the club, did you have a phone on you?
No.
So, did you recall seeing Mr. Barrow in the club?
Yes.
Did you recall seeing my client in the club?
Yes.
What was my client wearing?
Black shirt and some gym shorts.
And when you got outside, did you see my client?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was he wearing?
Gym shorts and a tank top.
What color?
Black shorts and a white tank top.
Okay, so inside he's got a black shirt on and outside he's got a white shirt on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you get outside, you and Maisha begin fighting again, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yelling and screaming at each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And your brother's involved in that?
No, ma'am.
He's not involved in that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And do you see my client?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is he doing?
I don't know. He was yelling too. It was like so many people yelling.
Wasn't he just standing around with his hands behind his back?
Yes.
All right. You didn't see him become aggressive with anybody?
Not that I know of.
And as you and Miss Maisha were fighting, did you use any weapons like pepper spray or anything else?
No, ma'am.
Did a security guard pull you off of her?
I can't remember who pulled me off her.
Do you know if any of the security guards had guns on them?
Not that I know of.
Did you see Mr. Smith with any firearms?
No, ma'am.
Did you see him shooting at anything?
No, ma'am.
Now, you've just told us that my client was wearing a black shirt and gym shorts inside the club.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When he got outside, you've told us something different.
I noticed him. He had on a tank. He took the shirt off, I guess. He had the tank top on with some black shorts.
Okay. Page 38. Ms. Kendrick, do you recall giving a deposition on July 21st, 2016?
I don't know the dates.
You do recall giving a deposition, though, do
Yes.
you? Okay. Do you recall me asking you the following questions and giving the following answers? Just as a follow-up, you remember that Michael Smith, you believe, was wearing black inside the club. Your answer, yes, ma'am. Question, when you came out of the club, was he dressed in anything different? No, sir. No, ma'am. That was the answer that you gave back in July 21st, 2016. And that was given under oath, correct?
Yes.
All right. When you were in the hospital, did various different officers come and talk to you?
Yes.
Okay. Did a female officer come and talk to you?
I don't remember.
All right. Do you remember telling any of the officers that you saw Maisha firing a gun?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Redirect.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kendrick, Ms. Hawthorne was talking to you about difference in your testimony about what Mr. Smith was wearing inside the club and outside the club, correct? Is there some reason why you have a different recollection today of what he was wearing outside the club?
As me sitting home just thinking about like all the stuff that happened, I remember.
Okay. That he was wearing something different on top?
Yes, ma'am.
To your recollection, was he wearing the same thing on the bottom, inside and outside the club?
Well, I guess he took the black shirt off. He had the tank top under, the white shirt under.
Okay. I'm talking about on the bottom of his body. Was it shorts both inside and
ma'am.
outside? Okay.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
You have a doubt about the testimony you gave on July 21st, 2016, correct? About what my client was wearing, what you testified to?
The black shorts.
That you said he was wearing a black shirt inside and a black shirt outside?
That's true.
Okay. So today, your testimony is different because after the deposition, which was sometime after the event, you went home and came up with a different version of the facts.
I sat down and thinking to myself like what all happened that night and noticed.
So are you sure that you might have seen my client with a white shirt? So you're saying that he changed his shirt?
Yes, he took the black shirt off. I guess he had the tank top. It's a tank top. You wear under shirts like that.
Did you see him take the shirt off?
No, ma'am.
Are you absolutely positive he was inside that club?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a videotape showing him outside the front door when the fight's going on.
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll withdraw it. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Is the witness excused?
We'll ask that she remains for a little bit.
Okay, you can go back to where you were waiting, ma'am. Call your next witness.
State recalls Mark Mably.
Still under oath.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
In your investigation, did you have contact with Danielle Kendrick?
I did,
And was that along with another detective?
yes. Yes.
Who was that detective?
Detective Frank Scala.
When did you first make contact with Ms. Kendrick?
That was the morning of September 13th.
Okay, so really the same calendar day of the shooting.
Yes.
And where did you make contact with her?
At Shands in
Okay,
Gainesville.
in Gainesville?
Yes.
And so she was admitted into the hospital up there?
Correct.
Did you and Detective Scala show her one photo lineup that day?
I administered the photo lineup at the conclusion of Detective Scala's interview.
Okay.
Right, looks like the fence is looking at states. OO. Deputy, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as states OO. Do you recognize the stapled pages?
I do.
And what are they?
This is the photo array admonition form, as well as the photo array signed and indicated by Danielle Kendrick.
Okay. And did she select a picture in this photo array?
She did.
And what numbered position did she select?
Position 4.
And did she initial and date that?
She did.
And who is pictured in picture number 4?
Defendant Barrow.
Okay. And what did she say about Mr. Barrow?
That her quote was, "shot me."
At this time, the state would move into evidence states OO as states
51. Any objection?
objection.
No objection.
State's Exhibit 00 for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 51.
No further questions.
Cross?
No, Your Honor.
You were present when Detective Scala interviewed Ms. Kendrick at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And that interview was recorded, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall in that interview, her being asked a question about whether her and Maisha got any licks in with each other?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you remember her saying that she did not land any licks on Maisha?
If I recall correctly, she denied being involved in the altercation.
Okay. In fact, not only did she deny it, but she said that Maisha was fighting a girl, one of her friends, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And she didn't know the girl's name, correct?
I do not think so, no.
And the girl was the niece of one of her other friends from Orlando, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember Ms. Kendrick being asked a question about the altercation outside the club with the bouncer?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember her being, or asking her whether she pepper sprayed anybody during that altercation?
Yes.
And what did she say?
No.
Okay. Did she give any explanation in that regard as to the pepper spray?
She said she doesn't have a purse.
Okay. She denied ever having pepper spray, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall her, as to the altercation outside the club, making any statements as to who she was arguing with?
I don't recall who she said she was having the argument with, no.
Do you recall her making a statement saying that she was not arguing with Quan outside the club?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall her making a statement that she was arguing with a guy who was 5'7", not too big, and slim?
No, sir.
Were you asking the questions, or was Detective Scala?
Detective Scala was.
Do you recall her being questioned about her relationship with Maisha?
I do not remember that, no, sir.
Okay. Do you remember whether she made any statements in regards to getting in an altercation back in July with Maisha
No, sir.
in a fight? Would it help for you to review the audio recording of that to refresh your memory?
If I listen to it, yes.
Judge, I have it. I have it available. I don't know if you want to take a break so that he can review it, or...
Counsel approach.
Yes, sir. And with that understanding, I understand you weren't asking the question, but Detective Scala was asking the questions. He might have a better recollection of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hold on one second. Judge, I have no more questions.
All right. Any redirect? Is he excused yet? Not yet. Okay. Call your next witness.
Detective Frank Scala.
Exciting.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, ma'am. Frank Scala. I'm with the Marion County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked for the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately 28 years now.
And what is your current position?
Major crimes.
Are you a detective?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been a detective with the Major Crimes Division?
In major crimes, I've been since 2005.
What did you do prior?
I worked patrol the majority of my career, and then in 2002, I went to property crimes prior to coming to major crimes.
Okay. And were you one of the main investigators in the Cloud9 shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
During the course of your investigation, did you have an occasion to meet up with a victim and witness, Danielle Kendrick?
Yes, ma'am.
And initially, when was the first time that you met with her?
September 13th, 2015.
And the location of that was where?
That was at Shands.
Okay. The second time that you met with her was where?
The second time was on September 30th, 2015, and that was at her residence.
Okay. That was after she had gotten discharged from the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On that occasion, did you yourself show her some photo arrays?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
2?
Yes, that's correct.
Showing you first what's been marked for identification as states QQ. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
This is the photo admonition form and the photo array that I showed Ms. Kendrick.
Okay. One of the two you showed her?
Yes,
On
correct.
what date?
And that was on the 30th.
Okay. And did Miss Kendrick identify somebody in this photo array?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
And what numbered photo did she?
Number 5.
And who does that photo, who is that a photo of?
Michael Smith.
And what did Miss Kendrick say about the person she identified?
She said that he was one of the subjects that was with Laquan Barrow at Cloud9.
This is states PP. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
This is a photo admonition form and the photo array that was also administered to Ms. Kendrick on the 30th.
Okay. And did she identify somebody in this photo array?
Yes, she did in slot number 5, and that was Gary King.
What did she say about Mr. King?
That he was also one of the subjects hanging out with Mr. Barr, or Laquan Barr.
At this time, the state would move into evidence states QQ and PP as 52 and 53.
No objection.
No objection.
States Exhibit PP for identification will be received in evidence as States Exhibit 52. States Exhibit QQ for identification will be received in evidence as States Exhibit 53. Mr. Bankowitz?
So Detective, this was Miss Kendrick?
Excuse me?
Miss Kendrick is the one you showed the photo arrays
Yes,
to?
sir, that's correct.
And in Exhibit 52, did you say that she told you that Gary King was there, or that she knew Gary King?
That he was one of the subjects that were with Laquan Barrow.
That night of the shooting, or
Yes.
when? So she identified him as being at the club that night.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gorley?
Please, Court. Detective Scala, you also took a statement from Ms. Kendrick at the hospital, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And in that statement, you asked her whether she was involved in a physical altercation in the bar with Maisha, correct?
That's true.
And is it fair to say that she denied being involved in a fight with Maisha?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in fact, that she said it was Maisha and another girl, that she didn't know her name, correct?
That's true. Yeah.
And likened that girl to a friend's niece from Orlando, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you also asked her about an incident or an altercation that occurred outside the club, correct?
Yes.
Involving a bouncer,
Yes, sir, I did.
Wayne Council.
Yes.
Okay, and the reason that you asked her about that was because you'd gathered information from other sources about what occurred outside the club, correct?
Yes, sir.
As part of questioning her about what happened outside the club, you asked her if she pepper sprayed anybody, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And is it fair to say that she denied pepper spraying anybody?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, she said that she didn't even have pepper spray, correct?
Yes, sir.
She said she didn't carry a purse,
Right.
and she's a tomboy, correct?
I don't recall that statement, but yeah, it's something that,
And pepper spray is not allowed in the club, correct?
yes.
All right. And you, as part of your interview process with her, you asked her if she was arguing with somebody outside the club, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And specifically, you were basing that on information. You asked her whether she was arguing with Quan outside the club, correct? And do you recall her telling you that she was arguing with a guy that was 5'7", not too big and slim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that she was not arguing with Quan, correct?
Right.
Okay. And as part of that, you also interviewed her in regards to Maisha and her's relationship,
Right.
whether they liked each other. They've ever been in any altercations previously, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall her telling her that they'd gotten into it back in July?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Detective.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Good afternoon, Detective.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Good.
Good. Now, when you took the lineups to Miss Kendrick, she picked out a photograph of my client.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what date it was, again, that you went to see her?
That was September 30th, 2015.
Okay, more than 15 days after the event?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did she advise you that she did not see my client with a firearm?
Yes, that is correct.
And did she describe to you what my client was wearing?
I believe a white tank top and, I want to say, basketball shorts, red. Yeah.
Okay. Did she tell you that she saw my client inside the club?
I don't recall if it was inside or outside the club.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't.
all right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any redirect? Is the witness excused?
Ask for him to stay.
Okay. You can go back to where you were waiting before. Call your next witness.
State would call Nathaniel Kendrick.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat. Mr. Record.
Hi. Good afternoon, sir.
Good.
How are you?
Wonderful.
Can you go ahead, introduce yourself to the jury, and tell the court reporter how to spell your name?
Nethaniel Kendrick, Nathaniel Kendrick, Kendrick.
Mr. Kendrick, are you from Ocala?
Yes, sir.
How long have you lived here?
All my life.
How old are you?
37.
Mr. Kendrick, you've previously been convicted of a felony on 6 occasions.
Yes, sir.
What part of Ocala do you live in generally? What part of Ocala do you live in generally?
Now?
Or back in 2015?
Northwest.
Do you know Laquan Barrow?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Mr. Barrow?
Facebook clubs.
You see him in court today?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what he's wearing for the jury?
White shirt.
You wearing a jacket?
Yes, sir.
May the record reflect he has identified Mr. Barrow.
The record will so reflect.
What do you know? Does Mr. Barrow have a nickname?
Juan Sosa.
How long have you known of Mr. Barrow for?
Couple years. 4 or 5 years.
Before the night of September 13, 2015, you and him ever have any issues?
No, sir.
I asked you about his nickname. Do you have any nicknames, Mr. Kendrick?
Nate, Wild Bull.
Why do people call you Wild Bull, Mr. Kendrick?
It's gonna be funny. Well, we was in a club a few years ago, me and my friends, and I had these glasses on, and it was down like this here. And when he seen the picture, I was doing like this, and he say, "Look at him looking like Judge Fudge." And that's when they really called me Wild Bull. That's how I get that name.
All right. Anyone ever call you Munch?
Me? That's my cousin's name.
Okay. All right. Gary King, you know him?
Yes, sir.
You see him here today? I see you gesturing.
Black shirt,
What else has he got on?
tie.
Like a necktie?
Yes, sir.
May the record reflect he has identified Mr. King.
The record will so reflect.
You know a fellow named Michael Eugene Smith?
Not until that night.
You see him here today?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what he's wearing for the jury?
Black shirt, bow tie.
May the record reflect he's identified Mr. Smith.
The record will so reflect.
How'd you know Gary?
Same way, Facebook clubs.
Michael, you didn't know him before that night?
No, sir. Never seen him before in my life.
Maisha Barrow. You know her?
Same way, clubs. Facebook.
Danielle Kendrick. Who is she?
Sister.
Big sister or little sister?
Little.
How much older than Danielle are you?
I think about 4 or 5 years.
Mr. Kendrick, on September 13, 2015, did you go to Cloud9?
Yes, sir.
Why'd you go there?
Party hard, we work
What time did you get there?
12 up to 12, something to 1, something like that.
Did you go inside?
Yes, sir.
What's going on when you get inside?
The normal clubbing, people walking around, pictures, mingling.
Did you see your sister there?
Yes, sir.
Did you go there with her?
No, sir.
What happened? So you get inside, people walking around, music's going, I assume.
Yes, sir.
You get a drink yourself?
Yeah, I got a drink. I think it was peach Ciroc or something light. Then I didn't even finish it. I think I took a few pictures. And a fight broke out.
Who was the fight between, Mr. Kendrick?
My sister and Maisha.
You know what they were fighting about?
No, sir.
Tell the jury what you saw.
Well, when they was fighting, I didn't go over there. I just stood back and let them fight. Once my sister got on top of her, that's when Quan came in and hit my sister. That's when I got involved. Went over there, I hit him. Security got in between us, separated us, and that's when they ended up going outside.
You stay inside for the time being?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Gary inside?
What, sir?
Did you see Mike inside?
I think, yes, sir.
Did they get involved in that at all?
They came over there, but security had got in between everybody.
So after they get taken out, do you stay inside for a minute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you eventually go outside?
Yes, sir.
What happens when you walk out the door?
When I walk out, I make a right. I see my sister on the side, But I'm really getting them so we can get ready to go, but they were standing in front,
Who were they?
those three. Just like they're sitting right here, you could take them, put their back facing 441 South, and their face facing 441 North.
They were facing north?
Yeah, they was facing 441 South North, up Pine Street.
They were looking
That's
up
the way their
front.
face was. Like, I'm like, say for instance, you walk out the club, make a right. Quan is gonna be right here, Gary's gonna be right here, and Mike's gonna be right here. Just like they're sitting right there, you just,
There any cars right outside?
I think it was a dark color car, a truck or something, right there in that little area.
You hear Quan saying anything?
So you're gonna catch a body, basically killed me.
You hear him say anything about bond money?
Yeah, say he got bond money. And I told him to do what he got to do. My job was to protect my sister, so I stood in front of her. And that's when they went to shooting. I was standing directly in front of him.
Tell the jury what you saw.
Well, when I stood directly in front of my sister, all three of them had guns.
What'd they do?
Shoot
What were they shooting at?
me.
Mr. Kendrick, at that point in time, had you taken your shirt off when you came outside?
I had a button-up shirt. I think it probably had got ripped from inside the club. I had a tank top when I came outside. I think my shirt had got ripped, I'm not sure.
Nate, go ahead and take a look at this. You recognize what's in that picture?
Yeah, that's my shirt.
May I publish 13B to the jury?
Yes, sir.
And that's there next to the front door of the club?
Yes, sir.
How many shots did they fire at you, Nate?
Probably heard like 20 shots.
How did you realize you were shot? Tell me how that came on.
Really a pain I never felt before.
What did it feel like?
It was like a bunch of pressure. Like, just unexplainable. Really.
Have you ever felt anything more painful in your life?
No, sir.
What'd you do?
I backpedaled. Then I found the strength to turn around. And as I was running, I like fell in the doorway. I couldn't, like, just like collapse.
What happened after you fell, Mr. Kendrick?
Well, I was laying down on the ground. I remember hearing screaming, and it was a police standing over me. Well, he squatted beside me, and he asked me where I've been shot. And I told him the chest, and I think that's when he ripped the shirt, and he was like, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been shot in the chest." And at the same time as he talking to me, I'm hearing somebody saying somebody dying, somebody dying, somebody dying. And that's when he went to pumping on my chest. And pumping, and that was it.
That's September 13th, 2015.
Yes, sir.
How long was it before you remember anything else?
I don't know, end of October or something like that,
Where were you for those 2 months?
in a hospital.
Were you in a coma?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many times you had surgery, Mr. Kendrick?
I'd say like 3 or 4 surgeries or something like that. I don't know. It was a lot.
Do you remember on October 27, 2015, the police coming to talk to you?
Somewhat.
Kind of fuzzy?
Yeah. I was.
I want to ask you a little bit about the effect. Let me ask you this. Do you know which of them fired the gun that shot you?
Corn. I was standing directly in front of him.
What effect has being shot had on your day-to-day life?
Like, I can't work right now. And, like, from broken ribs, multiple surgeries, and living my life with guilt because an innocent woman lost her life that didn't have anything to do with anything. The situation wasn't even that serious to even have guns involved.
Can you lift things, Mr. Kendrick?
It depends.
That week, what kind of work were you doing?
I was working in signature brand, packaging, loading.
Can you load?
No, not right now.
Do you have any back problems?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about your back problems.
Well, I have a long scar on my back from when the police was pumping on me. It broke all my ribs. And I got wired, a whole bunch of wire. They wired my ribs up. It's like if I touch it like this, like if you touch a ball and how the lightning to go on the ball, that's how when I touch this, that's how I feel.
Did the bullet go through you?
Yes, sir.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember there being a time closer to September where an officer came to talk to you? Do you remember writing Ware's sister on a note in the hospital?
Like, I think that's before I went into the coma. They kept asking me, I think, like, who was shooting. But I wrote on the paper, like, they couldn't, like, really tell what I was writing at first. And, like, where's my sister? Because I remember her being shot and her getting dragged away from somebody, by somebody.
Do you think that she may have been the one who had died? Do you remember if they told you that she was okay?
I think so. I think.
Did you know Benitria Robinson? I have nothing further.
Mr. Bankowitz?
Thank you, Judge. Now, Mr. Kendrick, you recall, I believe Mr. State Attorney asked you about the detectives coming to see you in October 27th.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Remember giving them a statement?
Somewhat.
You remember
I was in and out.
telling them that you didn't know who else shot you besides Quan?
I think the only picture that they showed me was Quan, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not my question, sir. I didn't ask you about identification or pictures or anything like that. You were asked who shot you, and you said Quan. And then you were asked, was anybody else there? And you said, I don't know, it was dark.
I don't remember. I don't recall that.
Would you like to review your statement? Is that a yes or a no?
It doesn't matter. I don't recall it, sir.
But according to your statement, the only one you identify as,
Sustained.
would you like to look at your statement, sir? May I approach the witness?
Well, Mr. Bankowitz, I think he said looking at the statement won't help him remember.
Sir, isn't it true that it wasn't until July 25th of 2017 when your deposition was taken that you implicated Gary King?
I wasn't coming to court, period.
Sir, I don't care if you're coming to court. Answer my question if you would.
Say what? Could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure. Sir, isn't it true that until July the 25th of 2017, when your deposition was taken, you never implicated Gary King in the shooting aspect of this case? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that deposition changed all your other testimony, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Mr. Gorley?
Thank you, Your Honor. You would agree with me, would you not? You would agree with me, would you not, Mr. Kendrick, that you gave a statement that was different to the detectives back when they interviewed you than what you testified in the deposition, correct?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Statement in the hospital.
Question is correct.
Well, let's see if we can clarify.
You ever given a statement to the detective about Quan putting a gun in your sister's face?
Somewhat.
Okay. And that he was trying to kill your sister?
When I said put a gun to my sister's face, that's meaning pointing like this. That's what I'm meaning by that.
Okay. And I believe if I heard your testimony correctly, she was standing behind you?
I put her behind me.
Okay. And do you recall when you gave the statement to the detectives that they asked you if you could describe the gun and you described it as a .357 or a .40, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me, would you not, that a .357 and a .40 is a rather large gun?
A 40 is an automatic.
Correct, but in size, it is a rather large automatic, correct?
What do you mean? Because you can have a Glock 40. A Glock 40 could be small.
What other .40s could you have?
I don't know.
And a .357?
It could be long or small, long or short.
Okay. Now, do you recall if you told them that Quan was the only one that was shooting?
I recall saying Quan shot me.
Okay. Now, from hearing your testimony on direct examination by Mr. McCourt, you indicated that you walked out of the club and you turned to the right along the side of the club. Is that correct?
To get my sister to go.
Okay. And were you close enough to the side of the club that you would be able to touch the wall?
To the side or to the front?
To the front or the side? How close to the
I
entrance?
never was on the side of the club.
Okay. When you walked out, you walked in what direction?
To the right.
Okay. To the right. And how far from the side of the club were you at that point?
If this was the edge of the front of the club,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Okay. So, just so I can understand a distance of about that far?
I don't have a ruler. I can't give you a measurement.
But you just demonstrated how far from the side. And that's where the argument was taking place? With Quan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that argument that took place there, you made a statement to him in that regard of, if you're going to shoot, or what was exactly what was it that you said?
Before I made my statement, he told me basically he was finna kill me.
Okay.
And I said, do what you got to do.
Okay. Did you make a, are those the exact words that you used?
I said, do what you got to do, shoot me.
Okay. You know a person by the name of Kiara Scott?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see when this argument with Quan was going on, anybody near Quan?
Those three.
Okay. Did you ever see an individual in a white t-shirt larger than Quan near him during this argument?
A whole lot of people with white t-shirts out there.
Okay.
Just being honest.
All right. Did you see an individual with a bigger than Quan, heavier than Quan, white t-shirt holding Quan back from trying to get to you?
I didn't see none of that.
Okay. Do you not like people calling you wild bull?
I mean, when I start doing positive things in my life, I stopped them from calling me that and start telling them to call me by my real name. I wasn't responding to people calling me wild bull.
You'd agree with me, would you not, that Maisha and your sister do not get along?
I have no knowledge of that.
They've never been in fights before? Arguments before?
I have no knowledge of that.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Kendrick.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Kendrick, when you were in the club, you told us that at the deposition that you had bought your sister a drink,
Yeah, I gave her a $20 bill. Yes.
and then you saw your sister involved in a fight in the club with Maisha.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you see my client in the club,
Who's your client?
Mr. Smith?
I can't remember.
Okay. And would it be reasonable and fair to say that you'd never heard of him before that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you identified my client out of a lineup, correct?
What kind of lineup? Who? Who's your client?
Did anybody give you a lineup to show you anything from the police?
I don't know.
Yes or no?
My transcripts, it don't say anything about picking a Smith out of a lineup, I don't think.
Okay.
Could you refresh my memory and show me, please?
So if you never picked my client out of lineup, that's your answer.
I say, I don't remember. I said, could you show me to refresh my memory, please? And
I'm just asking you, if you don't remember, then you don't remember, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. You picked my client out today in the courtroom, though, correct?
I will never forget. I will never forget a face of a person trying to kill me. Never.
Now, isn't it true, sir, that you told us that you saw a county jail picture?
Yeah, after, I don't know if I was still in the hospital or when I got out of the hospital, I was showed a picture. I think it was from my sister. And I was like, yeah, that's him.
Okay,
Because that was my first time ever seeing him at the club with a gun in his hand.
all right. But you recalled that picture when you saw my client, when that picture was shown to you by your sister, right?
Could you repeat the question?
You told us that you identified my client because you saw a picture of him shown to you by your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when the fight was broken up by security? Did they move you outside as well?
No, ma'am.
You stayed back inside the club?
They wouldn't let me out.
Where was your sister when all this was going on?
I was in a club looking for her.
All right. Were you aware that she had gone outside?
No, ma'am. Not till I couldn't find her in the club.
Okay. So when you walked outside, you saw your sister,
Yes, ma'am.
and was she getting into it with Maisha?
She was standing in front of the club, and I didn't even know it was nothing going on at the club. When I walked out, I was getting my sister to leave, and that's when the way we was walking was the way they was standing at.
Did you hear screaming, people yelling and screaming at one another
When?
in anger when you walked out of the club?
I don't recall. Because when I walked out the club and went and stood by my sister, that's when we started.
We? Who's we?
Quan.
Okay. And when you walked out of the club, you saw my client standing close to Pine Street?
I'm not saying he was standing close to Pine Street. I'm just giving you from Pine Street, he was standing there, Gary and Quan. I'm not saying he was standing near Pine Street. I can't give you a measurement. I'm just giving you the section where they were standing, how they were standing. Like I would say, you standing in the middle of the courtroom. That might not be the middle, but you're standing there. That's what I mean.
When you saw the three people standing out there, you described it as being about 4 feet apart?
From each other? From them?
That-
Those three?
No, sir.
What three?
You've explained that the individuals were about the same distance apart as they are in the courtroom.
What individuals?
The defendants, my client,
I
Mr.
asked you
Smith,
that.
Mr. King, and Mr. Barrow.
Yes, that's what I asked you.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
And they're separated in space. They're not up shoulder to shoulder in the courtroom, are they?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So when you walked out of the club, they were not standing shoulder to shoulder. Is that correct?
I never said they was.
And that's what I'm trying to find out. So when you walked out, you've described my client as the person being closest to Pine.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And do you remember what my client was wearing?
He had on a tank top and basketball shorts, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
I can't remember.
And then it was very short, right after you came outside, you exchanged some words with Mr. Barrow, and then
Shots was fired.
shots were fired. Thank you, sir.
Redirect.
Mr. Kendrick, Mr. Bankwitz was asking whether or not at the time you were interviewed at the hospital, you said that Mr. Bankwitz, the lawyer sitting next to Gary, when he was asking you questions, he was asking about what was said during your interview with the police, okay? And about whether or not you said you didn't remember anybody else shooting, okay? And that it was dark. You remember him asking you that? Okay, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, I'm going to show him on the transcript. Page 3. Starting at line 16.
Objection, Judge. He needs to ask him a question if you can remember what he said prior to approaching him and giving him an answer.
Do you remember exactly what was said during that interview?
I know who shot you. I told him Quan shot me. And then I say me and my sister. And he asked me, could I pick him out of a photo lineup?
You remember when he asked you, was there anybody else? What you said? Would it help you refresh your memory to look at a transcript?
Yes, sir.
May I approach? Yes. Mr. Kendrick, I'm going to show you page 3. Starting at line 18, where Detective Scala asks this. Read that to yourself. Remember what your answer was? What did you say?
I know it was him.
Now, you were also asked about whether you remember who he was with. You remember being asked that question? Would it help refresh your memory to look at a transcript?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, page 3, line 21. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to have you go through page 4, line 2. Okay, so start here, Mr. Kendrick. And then you're ready to look at the next page. How far did you get? All right, that's a little too far. So kind of going back up here to page 3, when he asked you whether you remember who he was with, did you answer that question?
No, sir.
Asked you another question kind of right on top of it, right?
Yes, sir.
So he said, you know who he was with, then what was the question that followed?
It all moved.
They do that. All right. You remember who he was with, and then what did he immediately say?
It moved again.
Hey, you need a new laptop.
Leave your hand there so it doesn't.
All right, Mr. Kendrick. I'm going to stay here because it appears to not move if I'm standing by him.
So right here.
Yes.
I never answered that question.
Okay. What did he then ask you? He said, you remember who he was with?
He said, do you remember who he was with? Okay. Do you remember what the gun looked like that he shot you with?
Okay. And then you then answer that question?
I don't know. I mean, it was dark.
That's when you say it was dark?
Yes, sir.
And then you describe Mr. Barrow reaching in and grabbing either a .357 or a .40.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were asked the questions about your deposition, the deposition that you gave, you had been previously subpoenaed to a deposition, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't come then.
Yes, sir.
Why not?
Because this wasn't me getting on the stand, pointing somebody out. But
What is the code?
don't snitch.
Would you say you abided by the code?
To a certain point, but my life is full of guilt.
Is that why you came to that deposition?
Yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Anything else, Mr. Bankowitz?
Yes, sir. Mr. Kendrick, again, going back to your statement, you never did say that Gary King was involved in your shooting, did you, in that statement? You looked the whole statement over on the computer.
Looked at it. I didn't answer the question.
Excuse me?
Talking about in the transcript,
Yes, sir.
I never answered that question.
Well, you were asked, do you remember who he was with? And you never answered that question. And in fact, you never said Gary King was involved or was with him, did you?
I never said if someone was with him or without him.
You never said Gary King was involved, did you?
I didn't say no one.
Yes or no?
No, sir.
Mr. Worley?
Mr. Kendrick, Mr. Bankowitz asked you pretty much the same question that the prosecutor asked you. And asked you if looking at the transcript would help you remember anything. And you gave an answer to Mr. Bankowitz, said no. It's not going to help me remember anything, correct?
I say refresh my memory.
And you said no, it's not going to refresh my memory.
I say show me and refresh.
I'm talking about to Mr. Bankowitz. First questions that you got. Correct?
Relevance, objection.
Council approach. Just wait a minute.
Mr. Kendrick, you can answer the question, and I'll repeat the question as best I can for you. Mr. Bankowitz asked you a question, and as to whether the individuals were there or not, and if you identified them. And you said you didn't remember. And he said, well, I can show you something that will help your memory. And you told him that it's not going to help my memory, correct?
I said refresh my memory. Show me and refresh my memory.
Right, but you told him that it would not refresh your memory for him to show that to you.
He's answered the question.
Okay. Yet when the state attorney approached you and asked you the exact same question as to whether or not looking at it would help you refresh your memory, you said that it would, correct?
I say refresh my memory. Show me.
Okay, to the state, and you allow the state to show it to you.
If the lawyer would have showed me and refreshed my memory, I could have given the same answer, but he never showed me.
You recall him having it in his hand, walking towards you?
I say refresh my memory.
It's sustained.
Mr. Kendrick, you have been convicted of 6 felonies, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Mr. Kendrick, I just have a few more questions for you. How tall are you, sir?
6'1".
How much do you weigh?
Right now, probably about 250, 255, something.
And were you about the same weight back in September 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
On were you on probation
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
time of this incident?
Sustained.
Were you using any illegal?
Can we approach Your Honor?
Yes.
Do you remember during, oh, sorry. Let me know when you're ready. Okay. Do you remember telling us at your deposition that being shot has affected your life every day?
Yes, ma'am.
And that mentally you're not really there?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Is the witness excused?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Kendrick, you can go about your business.
Danielle maybe as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're a little past the point I would have preferred for your break, but we'll take it now. Again, hold your pads, leave them on your chairs. It'll be approximately 15, maybe as much as 20 minutes. All right, jury's out of the courtroom, be in recess for approximately 15 minutes. All right, be seated. Call your next witness.
State calls Mark Mably.
Do you swear swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Can you tell the jury your name and our court reporter how to spell it?
Mark Mably, M-A-R-K-M-O-B-L-E-Y.
Where do you work?
Marion County Fire Rescue.
What do you do with fire rescue?
I'm a paramedic.
How long have you been with fire rescue for?
About 2.5 years.
In your current position as a paramedic, how long have you been in that position?
About 1.5 years.
And for the prior year, what did you do?
I was an EMT.
Can you tell the jury what kind of training you have for your position?
I have a 2-year AS degree in emergency medicine, a complete EMT basic coursework, and EMT paramedic coursework.
What kind of work did you do before joining fire rescue?
I was a football coach.
I want to direct your attention back to September 13th, 2015. Were you working that night?
Yes, sir.
And where were you stationed?
My current station, Rescue 54.
Okay, and where is that located?
It's northeast of Ocala, Anthony Industrial Park.
Okay. Were you dispatched that night to go to the Cloud 9 nightclub?
Yes, I was.
Approximately what time?
I don't remember.
Do you recall about what time you arrived there?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Would it help you to look at your report to refresh your recollection?
I did not write a report that night. I was an EMT. My paramedic is the one who wrote the report.
Okay. Would it help you to look at a fire rescue report?
Yes, I would.
May I approach?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and just take a look at that. Do these reports contain call times, dispatch times?
Yes, they do. Call received, dispatch, en route, on scene, and patient contact.
All right. What time were you dispatched?
Dispatch was at 0134.
And what time did you arrive on scene?
We arrived on scene at 0143.
What time did you make patient contact?
0145.
So that'd be 1:45 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
And at that time of night, were you all asleep when you got the call?
No, sir, we were awake.
So when you get to the Cloud 9 nightclub, had you ever been there before?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe to the jury where you parked?
We parked on the north side of the event. When we approached, there was already officers and firefighters there. We staged our rescue South Pine on the north end of the event, trying to position as a easy way to get out.
Were you the first transport unit there?
I believe so, yes.
And what are your duties that you carry out day to day in your position?
Are you talking about my current position or my position at the time?
At the time.
At the time, I was an EMT basic. My primary duty was to assist my medic in patient care, driving to and from scene, assisting with acquiring vitals, treatment if necessary. Basically, I followed direction for his commands.
Tell the jury about the kind of scene you encountered when you got there.
We were one of the first units on scene. It was still pretty chaotic when we got there. There were several officers on scene, appeared to be Marion County Sheriff's Office and Ocala Police Department. Ocala Fire Rescue was already on scene. They had at least one engine. At the time, I said we were still pretty early. I don't believe anyone had assumed official command, at least not for the medical side. A lot of bystanders kind of moving around. Basically, everybody was trying to, assess the scene, triage, and get a handle on what was going on.
Triage, the word you just used. Tell the jury what triage is and how you implement that when you get to a scene like.
Essentially, triage is a method of determining who our most critical patients are, where direct care. First, medical units on scene. Primary task was going around, identifying how many wounded there are, and assign them a level. We have 4. There's a green, a yellow, a red, and a black.
What is green?
Green is no injuries or lightly injured. Essentially, they're ambulatory, can provide self-care, no life threats, no limb threats, stable vitals, and in good health.
About yellow?
Yellow are non-life-threatening injuries, wounded, possibly most ambulatory, capable of self-aid, stable, essentially walking wounded.
Red?
Red are critical patients, life threat, unstable vitals, and injuries that, if not treated, can lead to loss of life or limb.
Black?
Black are dead.
As you got out of the transport unit and you began approaching the scene, did you encounter anybody that was injured?
When we got out, my medic moved in to assess patients and find out where we needed to go. I followed him with the stretcher. I could see down the sidewalk, Ocala had a girl on the sidewalk they were working with. She was not moving, she was being treated by them. There was also reports of other people who had been treated and were at other locations. I was told that one person had an extremity shot and was treated with a tourniquet.
Was that somebody that at that point, given the scene, you would stop to help?
At that time, no. We would classify that as a yellow. Within my view, I had a red or possibly black, and that would be a person who's yellow. Extremity shot would not be considered a life threat, and if it's been treated, they'd be stable until we can further assess.
Where did you ultimately make contact with the patient that you administered care to?
He was inside the main entrance, inside the doorway. My medic found him, told me he had a patient shot in the chest. I moved the stretcher over there, and we found him. He was leaning up against a wall with a gunshot wound to the chest.
Did he say anything to you?
He was speaking, but I can't remember what he said.
Did he appear to be in pain?
Significantly, yes.
What did you do when you got back?
We basically positioned the stretcher, got him onto the stretcher, and started moving back towards the rescue. My medic had me place a hand over his gunshot, basically to keep pressure on the wound and keep air from getting into his lungs.
What is a sucking wound?
Sucking chest wound, essentially any penetration to the upper torso into your lungs. It can lead to what's called pneumothorax, which is where air gets into the pleura of your lungs and it causes your lung to collapse.
What does that kind of wound look like?
It generally looks like a puncture wound to the chest. There can be a pink froth associated with it. Generally, you will hear, if you listen to lung sounds, you will hear absent lung sounds on that side.
Did that gentleman you were treating have those symptoms?
He had a wound to the chest. I didn't listen to his lungs, so I don't know for sure.
Was air visibly escaping from the wound?
Not that I remember. I remember there was blood, but I didn't see if it was a particular color or bubbling.
At that point in time, did you load him on a stretcher?
Yes, sir.
Did you take him to the hospital?
Yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gorley?
No, Your Honor, no question.
No question.
All right, is the witness excused? All right, you can go about your business. Thank you. Next witness.
State call, Mark Mably.
Still under oath.
Welcome back. On October 27, 2015, did you go to the Ocala Regional Medical Center?
I did.
Did you go alone?
No, I went with Detective Frank Scala.
Who did you go there to speak with that day?
Victim Nathaniel Kendrick.
Had you recently received word that he had woken up from the coma he was in?
Yes.
Did you all attempt to speak to Mr. Kendrick that day?
Detective Scala conducted an interview. Yes.
Were you present during that interview?
I was.
Did Mr. Kendrick that day appear to be in pain?
I don't recall exactly.
Okay. How would you describe his just general demeanor for the jury?
He was able to communicate with us when Detective Scala was speaking with him.
At some point in time, did you guys kind of end the interview early and tell him he may come back if he's feeling better?
Yes.
Did you that day show him a series of photographs?
I did.
May the record reflect I'm showing defense RR.
I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit RR. You recognize this?
I do.
Go ahead and open this up for me. Take a look at what's inside there.
Okay.
What do you recognize that as being?
The photo admonition form, as well as a photo array.
And did you show that photo array to Mr. Kendrick?
I did, and it was signed and indicated by Mr. Kendrick.
Did he select the photo as somebody that he could identify?
He did.
Does this item appear to be in the same condition as when you placed it into evidence?
It does.
And the individual whose photo he selected, who was that?
Defendant.
Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes, ma'am. Wait.
Sorry. This time the state removes State's Exhibit RR into evidence as State's Exhibit.
No objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Bankowitz,
No.
your objection's noted. It's overruled.
Thank you, sir.
All right. State's Exhibit RR for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 54.
Who is the person that Mr. Kendrick circled in this photographic array?
Defendant Barrow.
And did Mr. Kendrick write what he described Mr. Barrow was doing?
He did.
What did he write?
I have selected who tried to kill my sister and the person who shot me.
No further questions?
Mr. Bankowitz?
Thank you, Judge. And that's the only person he identified, correct?
On that day with the photo array that I administered, correct?
And on that day, I believe you said he was able to communicate?
Yes.
Was he lucid as far as he understood, he appeared to understand your questions?
Yes, sir.
Have any problems that you could tell understanding your questions, or did you have to repeat any questions to him?
I don't recall if I had to repeat any. If there was at any point where we felt that he wasn't communicating or understanding, the photo array would not have been shown.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Worley?
No questions on behalf of Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Judge. I was skipping your turn.
Sorry.
Detective Newbanks, you were present when Detective Scala was asking Mr. Kendrick questions, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me, would you not, that during that questioning, Mr. Kendrick indicated that Laquan Barrow had put a gun in his sister's face, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Is he excused? Really? All right, you can go about your business.
Your Honor, we...
Until tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Oh,
All right, call your next witness.
Kyle Hallie.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Have a seat. Ms. Kipke?
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Officer Kyle Hallie.
And how do you spell your last name?
Howie.
And how are you employed?
With the Ocala Police Department.
How long have you been with the Ocala Police Department?
About 6 years.
And what is your current position there?
I am a K-9 handler.
And how long have you been a K-9 handler?
3.5 years.
What did you do before that?
Regular patrol.
What position did you have in September of 2015?
I was a K-9 handler.
Okay. Were you on duty the early morning hours of that morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you part of the OPD unit that was engaged in a traffic stop near the Cloud9 Club?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was your function there at that traffic stop?
We had I guess you could call it a task force going or whatever. So officers had a car pulled over and they requested that I had my dog do an exterior sniff of the vehicle for narcotics.
Okay. Before anybody heard any shots, were you at the location already?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you doing what you had been called there to do?
Yes.
Okay. So you and your dog were outside your
Yes.
vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your transport unit, is it just you and your canine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What was going on when you heard shots?
We had just got done doing our function for the other officers, and my K-9 partner's Brinson. We were walking back to the car, and then that's when we heard numerous gunshots go off.
Okay. What was your first response?
Put my dog in the car.
Okay. What did you do? And you did that?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do after that?
I got in my vehicle and then went around to the went around to the access of Cloud9 from Pine Avenue.
Okay. So you got onto Pine Avenue
Yes, ma'am.
and went where?
I was right there in the median. I guess you could say I was in the inside lane next to the turn lane.
Okay. So you were able to pull your vehicle in front of the club.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened at that point once you got there?
Got on the radio or something and said something about a white Mitsubishi or a white Hyundai. I can't recall which one they said.
So you heard a call out for a particular type of car and color of car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you physically see that?
Yes.
The car that matched that description?
I did. It pulled up almost next to me at the scene.
And what did you see that car or its occupants do?
Well, I turned around and I stopped them, and then it was either a female or a male. They had long hair. They jumped out, and I could tell they were in a panic.
Okay.
And they came from the opposite direction, so I let them go.
When you say the opposite direction, what do you
They
mean?
were coming from the north and from, I would say, 17th Street.
Okay. So they were coming coming from the opposite direction in which any suspect vehicles were alleged to have
Correct.
been going? Okay.
Correct.
Did you get a description of another car?
As I was dealing with the subjects in the white car, I saw a dark-colored sedan going south on 441 at a high rate of speed.
Okay. And were you outside your vehicle when you saw that?
I can't recall if I was outside or still in the car.
Okay. When you saw that dark-colored vehicle travel fastly away from the club, what did you do?
I gave chase.
Okay. And by the time you were in your vehicle and chasing that vehicle, did it disappear from you?
It never disappeared, but I never got close enough to find a make or a model or a tag number or anything like that.
What can you say about that car?
It was just a dark-colored four-door sedan, that's all I can say.
And how fast were you going chasing this vehicle?
I got up over 100 miles an hour.
Okay. And how close would you say you ever got to it?
Not very close.
Where did you go chasing this vehicle?
We went south on 441, past 80th Street at the split. We continued down to, I believe it's 92nd Place Road or something. And then we went eastbound from there and then up to Baseline and then went back north on Baseline, and I lost them. There is a gas station just north of the dump on the northeast side of the road. I don't work that section of town, so I don't know the name of the road. They went east into that neighborhood, and I never was able to locate them.
Okay. And what are some of the names of those? Is that a particular area where you have a lot of commonly named streets?
All I would know it is the Shores and
Okay.
Pine Road, there's all kinds of different, so.
Once it turned into that area, what did you do?
I discontinued.
Okay. And did you go back to the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Eventually back at the scene, were you the other officer with Officer Freed that were locating items in the parking lot?
Yes, ma'am. They just asked for our assistance in locating evidence.
And that's something that you would use your dog to help do?
There were so many people around, I didn't
Okay.
use my.
Not in this instance?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. No further questions.
No
Okay.
questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gorley?
Yes, sir. The white Mitsubishi did something unusual that drew your attention to it, correct?
No, just somebody got on the radio and said that there was a white Mitsubishi or Hyundai, I don't remember which one it was.
Didn't turn around in the middle of the roadway?
It did turn around in the middle of the roadway, yes.
You would consider that to be unusual, would you not?
I did.
And that was part of the reason why you stopped it?
That and somebody got on the radio and said
Right.
there might be a white vehicle involved. Yes.
And the dark sedan, that was a car, correct? It was not a truck, correct?
Correct.
You clearly identified it as a sedan and not a truck.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawthorne?
No questions.
All right, anything else?
Yes, sir.
Is the witness excused? All right, you can go about your business, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Call your next witness.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Have a seat. Mr. McCourt?
Can you go ahead, introduce yourself to the jury, and spell your name for the court reporter?
I'm Keith Miller, Keithmiller. I'm a sergeant with the Marion County Sheriff's Office.
What is your current assignment with the sheriff's office?
I'm assigned to the Evidence Division in charge of the body-worn camera program.
How long have you been in that position?
About a year and a half now.
How long total have you been at the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
19 years.
Prior to being in the body-worn camera program in the Evidence Division, what other positions have you held in the agency?
I was in the Major Crimes Division for about 11 years, during which time I ran the robbery unit and the sex offender unit and the fraud unit, and was a supervisor over the Major Crimes unit.
I want to direct your attention back to September 13th of 2015. Were you working that day?
Yes.
I should say, were you on call that day?
I was on call and ended up working, yes.
Were you contacted by the major in charge of investigations at that time, Tommy Bibb?
Yes, I was.
Where's the first place you went after Major Bibb contacted you?
To the Cloud 9 on South Pine Avenue.
Did you call out other detectives to whom the case would be ultimately assigned?
Yes, I did.
And who were they?
Frank Scala and Mark Newbanks.
I want to fast forward ahead to the following morning. Did you begin looking for a black Kia with tag BXQ X50?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go to look for that Kia?
Went to 9324 Spring Terrace.
What made you go there?
The tag was registered to a person that lived at that address, and her name is Tanisha Barrow.
And 9324 Spring Terrace, can you describe for the jury where that is within Marion County?
And Silver Spring Shores.
In what part of the Shores?
Um,
The Shores
I
is a
don't know,
large
there's
area.
different-
Is it closer to like Lockheed Martin or Baseline Road?
Honestly, I've never worked that area. I went out there, and I don't know if it's closer to either one. Honestly, I don't know.
Fair enough. Was the Kia present when you went there?
It was not.
Did you all knock on the door?
Yes.
Did a woman answer?
Yes.
Who did she identify herself as being?
Dorothea Barrow.
Did she tell you whether she had any relationship to Laquan Barrow?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
Was she an older woman?
Yes.
How old would you approximate her to be?
At least her 50s, if not close to 60.
About 8:33 that morning, did 3 vehicles respond to the location?
Yes.
Who were the people that responded along with those vehicles?
There was a Tykia Everett, who was Laquan Barrow's mother, Tanisha Barrow, who was the owner of the Kia, black Kia that we were looking for, Shagarian Hamilton, who was Laquan Barrow's girlfriend, and a Denisha May, who said that she was in possession.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
All right, did you talk with Denisha May?
Yes, I did.
Did Denisha May show you, did you ask Denisha May if she knew if she could tell you the location of the Kia?
Yes.
Did she provide you with the location for the
No, she
Kia?
did not.
Did she show you her phone to show where she was all night?
Yes, she did.
And when she showed you her phone, what did you notice?
It had a location where she said she was of Northeast 36th Avenue and 20th Place.
Did you tell Major Bibb that you took note of that?
Yes, I did.
You know if a detective responded to that location at that time?
Yes, they did. I don't know who it was, but they did.
All right. Now, going ahead a little bit that morning, did Laquan Barrow come to the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, he did.
Did he drive himself there?
Yes.
When he arrived, how did he enter the Sheriff's Office?
He walked in with myself.
And where did you walk in?
I don't remember the exact door, but I always walk in the same door, which would have been on the north side of the operations complex, which comes into in between the emergency operations center and the major crimes unit. You can walk right in, and our interview rooms are right there.
And are there any doors between entering the Sheriff's Office and the interview room through which you would have to pass to get to the interview room?
Coming that direction, yes, there's an exterior door, and then there's an interior door, which actually divides the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, from the Sheriff's Office.
Is your office, the Sheriff's Office, is it a secure building?
Yes, it is.
How do you gain entry to the building?
With a key card.
Would you have used your key card to open all the doors?
Yes.
And would you yourself have been the one touching the doors to open them for Mr. Barrow?
Yes.
Did you bring him directly to an interview room?
Yes.
Now, while Mr. Barrow was in that interview room, did he receive a phone call?
Yes, he did.
Did you speak to the person who was on the phone?
Yes, I did.
How did they identify themselves?
It was Kiara Scott. When Laquan handed me the phone, he said this is Kiara Scott calling in, and he handed me the phone.
Did you ask Mr. Scott to come down to the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Did you take a statement from him?
Yes, I did.
Did Laquan Barrow come to the sheriff's office with his girlfriend, Shagarian Hamilton?
Yes, he did.
Did you take a statement from her?
Yes, I did.
That afternoon, did you go to the Greenfields Apartments at 5465 Southeast 30th Place?
Yes, I did.
And was the purpose going there to collect clothing from a Chevy Silverado?
The purpose was to look for a 9mm handgun and collect the clothes that Laquan Barrow was wearing while he was at the Cloud 9.
States exhibits B, D, D, and E.
I want to start by showing you what's marked as States Exhibit B, D, D. Can you take a look at that item for me?
Yes,
You recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
It is the bag containing the evidence that I collected in this case, which would have been a black short sleeve shirt, which I collected at 5465 Southeast 30th Place. It has my initials and the date of 9/13/15 when I collected it.
Does this appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it does.
This time the state removes State's Exhibit DDD, the evidence of State's Exhibit 55.
No objection.
No objection.
State's Exhibit DDD for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 55. Philip.
Sergeant Miller, let me have you take a look at State's Exhibit EEE. Can you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It is a pair of gray shorts that I collected at 5465 Southeast 30th Place.
Does this appear to be in the same condition to when you collected it?
Yes, it does.
This time the state removes State's EEE, the evidence of State's Exhibit 56.
No objection.
No objection.
Mr. Banquet,
No objection.
I didn't hear you. This paper
Look together.
rustling over here. Yeah,
All right,
you.
Sergeant Miller, you want to put some gloves
All
on?
right. State's Exhibit EEE will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 56. Paper rustling everywhere. Let's go ahead. I can't hear anyway, so.
Can you go ahead, may the witness publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Hold that up, sir. Go ahead and open up State's Exhibit 56 for you. Can you go ahead and publish those to the jury? To your knowledge, when you were at the Marion County Sheriff's Office after interviewing Ms. Hamilton and Mr. Scott, were there any other persons there who needed to be interviewed who had not yet been interviewed?
I was not aware of any, no.
And about 2 days later, did you go back to Cloud 9 with Kathleen Schmidt?
Yes, I did.
Did you help her search underneath the corner of the building for possible bullet fragments or projectile fragments?
Yes, I did.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gorley.
Deputy Miller, did you document the time that Mr. Barrow came to see you?
I can tell you the time the interview started was at 9:42 a.m.
That would have been approximately how many hours after the incident?
I was notified of the incident at 1:46 a.m. So it had already occurred by the time I got the call.
Ballpark of 8 hours?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Barrow showed up to that interview wearing the same clothes that he was wearing the night before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of that interview, or while he was there, somebody collected a gunshot residue from him, correct?
Correct.
And as part of that gunshot residue, they asked him if he had washed his hands, correct?
I wasn't in the room, so I couldn't testify to that.
And do you know if they asked him whether or not he'd washed his clothes?
I do not know.
Do you know if any forensic evidence was performed on his clothes, gunshot residue or anything else?
I do not know that either.
Did you yourself request any of that be done?
No, I did not. I was not the lead detective.
You did interview Kiara Scott, correct?
Yes, I did.
During Kiara Scott's interview, he advised you that he was
Sustained.
You took a statement from him,
Yes, I did.
and that statement was in an interview room?
Yes, it was.
Okay, as was Mr. Barrow's statement, correct?
Correct.
When he walked into the police department, you opened the doors for him. Can you independently say whether Mr. Barrow touched anything in the police department?
If he touched anything in the police department,
Doors, braced his hand on a door.
I didn't notice him touching anything.
Do you recall?
Him touching anything? I do not.
Okay. Can you say with a degree of certainty whether or not he touched anything?
I couldn't tell you
Okay.
if he did or did not.
And you would agree with me, would you not, that he, when he gave his interview, he was sitting in an interview room?
Yes,
Okay, and the interview has furniture, correct?
correct.
And I'm assuming that that interview room has been used by other detectives and other suspects in other crimes, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Barrow was touching things while he was in that interview room, correct?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Okay.
It would be on the video if he had.
All right. As you sit here, you have no independent recollection of that, correct?
That is correct.
Hold on 1 second. Do you recall during the interview process, Mr. Barrow asking to go to the restroom?
The only reason I do is because I read the transcripts obtained from the video. He didn't ask me. He asked somebody else. And I don't know. I didn't take him, but I know he did ask by reading the transcripts from the video.
And he did go to the bathroom, correct?
According to the transcripts, he did.
Thank you.
No questions.
Was the trip to the restroom the end
Yes, it was.
after the gunshot rescue?
Yes, it was.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
No, sir.
Witness excused?
Yes, sir. Just ask him to remain on standby.
All right, very good. Step down. Call your next witness.
State will call Michael Dodd.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
That's Mr. McCord.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the court reporter?
Michael Dodd, Michael-Dodd.
Did you used to work at the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
I did,
For how long?
15 years.
And since leaving the sheriff's office, what type of work do you do?
Corporate security.
When you were with the sheriff's office during those 15 years, what were your assignments?
I was a major crimes detective and then a supervisor.
And in the major crimes division, what assignments did you have?
Primarily internet crimes and homicide and violent crimes.
In internet crimes, tell the jury a little bit about those investigations.
Investigations pertaining to the internet exploitation of children.
Did you, in that position, become familiar with computer forensics?
I did.
Back on around September 13, 2015, were you assigned to work as kind of part of a team on the Cloud9 nightclub shooting?
Yes.
Did you attempt to extract data from the DVR system from the nightclub?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did.
Were you able to do so?
I was not.
Did you later go to the business of a gentleman named Adam Dawkins and make a video recording with a cell phone of video of stuff he was able to show you?
Yes.
Detective Dodd, I want to direct your attention now specifically to the morning of September 13th of 2015. Were you working that morning?
Yes.
Did you have occasion that morning to go to around the area, I believe it's Northeast 36th Avenue and South or Northeast 20th Street?
I did, yes.
Okay. What is in that area?
It's an apartment complex.
And what apartments are those?
Village Square?
And by whom were you directed to go there?
Sergeant Miller.
When you went there, did you go there with a particular purpose?
I was looking for a vehicle.
Can you tell the jury what vehicle you were looking for?
It was a Kia Optima. I think it was had a tag number, Bravo X-Ray Quebec X50.
BXQ?
BXQ X50.
Thank you. While there, did you find that vehicle?
I did.
When you found that vehicle, was it parked in a parking lot, a parking spot assigned to a particular apartment?
Yes, 2714.
Did you go to apartment 2714?
We did, yes.
Did you knock on the door?
We did, yes.
Anybody answer the door?
I was actually around back. There was several detectives, but somebody did answer. I don't remember exactly who, but somebody did.
Why'd you go around back?
That's just what we do. We go around, surround buildings.
Security?
Security.
Did you see anybody who was in apartment 2714?
Yes.
Do you see that person here in court today?
Yes, it was Gary King.
Can you describe his clothing for the jury?
Black shirt, striped tie.
May the record reflect he has identified Mr. King?
The record will so reflect.
Did you seize that vehicle?
Yes, we did.
Did you obtain a search warrant for that vehicle?
Detective Scala, yes.
Did you participate in the search of the vehicle?
I did, yes.
2014-15 Kia Optima. Does it appear similar to a 2014?
Objection leading.
No, overruled.
Does the 2014-15 Kia Optima appear similar in appearance to a 2014 or 15 Chevy Malibu?
I would say yes. They're both four-door sedans, similar.
Now, have one moment.
Yes, sir.
Also, did you have occasion, as a computer guy, to go up to Gainesville to speak with a woman named Melissa Hull?
I did, yes.
Did you have the occasion to view videos on her cellular phone?
I did, yes.
Did you obtain copies of those videos?
I did.
How did you do that?
I wasn't able to do an extraction at the time, so I believe at that time we hooked it up to a computer and just pulled the videos off there.
Okay. So you pulled the videos directly off of the phone onto a computer?
Correct.
Mr. Bankowitz?
Thank you, Judge. Now, this Kia Optima, did you run the tag on it to see who was the registered owner?
I don't recall if I did it at that time or not. I matched the vehicle to what I was supposed to be looking for by the tag number.
You matched the vehicle to what?
The tag number I was given to look for.
Okay. Did you match, but you didn't match it to an individual as to an owner of the vehicle, did you?
I don't recall ever running it.
And it was parked in a parking space assigned to a specific apartment?
Yes.
Did it have a number on it?
Yes, 2714.
Do you know if that vehicle was Gary King's vehicle?
I don't know.
Never checked?
I never checked.
Thank you.
Mr. Gorley?
Detective Dodd, you had an opportunity to review the security system at Law&Crime, correct?
I did.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to review the outside south east camera?
That'd be like towards the parking lot.
Right.
They weren't functioning per the Cloud9.
Did you do any forensic investigation to determine why they weren't functioning?
No,
Did you do any forensic investigation to determine if the camera itself was capable of recording video even though it was not on the DVD inside?
I did not.
You also secured a cell phone from Melissa Hall, correct? Are you viewed it?
I viewed it.
Okay. Did you do any forensic investigation of the cell phone video to determine whether or not portions of it have been edited or deleted?
No.
Were you the only one that was involved in the forensic examination of the cell phone?
Yes.
So to your knowledge, nobody has ever looked to see if the video was edited or deleted?
Not that I know of, no.
Thank you.
Hawthorne?
You went to Gainesville and met with Melissa Hall?
I did.
And at the time that you met with her, you had a computer and pulled the video from her phone into the computer that you took?
Correct.
Did you just pull a video from her phone?
Yes.
Did you pull a video from anyone else's phone?
Not that I recall.
Thank you.
Anything else?
There you are.
Perfect. Is he excused?
I'm asking you to remain in the back for a few.
Okay. All right. Call your next witness.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat. Kipke.
Please go ahead and reintroduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Rachel, and my first name is Rachel, and my last name is Kensey, Kinsey.
And I want to talk to you about a couple other things that you did as a crime scene tech in this particular case.
Okay.
First off, on the day of the shooting itself, did you have an opportunity or were you requested to go to a particular hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one did you go to?
I went to Ocala Regional as well as Monroe.
Okay. And what was the purpose of sending you to those hospitals?
I was requested by Lieutenant Vorsek, who was the Evidence Division Commander at the time, to take photographs of the victims, as well as any buccal swabs, fingernail swabs, collect any items of clothing that they may have there.
Showing defense counsel has been marked for identification as states JJJ. The composite exhibit states LLL, which contains 6 photographs.
identification states JJJ first. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does it contain?
These are hospital photos that I took, and I recognize that by my first initial, my old last name, as well as my sheriff's office ID number.
Now I'm showing you states composite exhibit LLL 1 through 6 and ask you to review these. And what do you recognize those 6 photographs to be of?
Photographs that I took at the hospital of a couple of the victims.
Okay. How many victims in total are depicted in these 6 pictures?
I believe I only saw 2.
Okay. And what location would this have been at?
Do you mind if I refer to my report? I was at multiple hospitals, so. The one gentleman that was in those photos, he was at Ocala Regional Medical Center. And then the other one was at the Monroe Regional Medical Center.
And the one that was at Monroe, was that a female or a male?
That was a female.
Okay. Who is depicted in states LLL 1, 2, and 3?
Mrs. Wadley.
Okay. And those are all 3 pictures of her
Yes, ma'am.
and her injuries?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What about states LLL 4, 5, and 6? Who is depicted in these?
That is Mr. Blunt, and he was at Ocala Regional.
Okay, and those 3 pictures are all him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are these 6 photographs fair and accurate representations of what Ms. Wadley and Mr. Blunt appeared to you when you went to the 2 respective hospitals in the early morning of September 13th of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would move into evidence states JJJ
As states 57 and composite exhibit LLL 1 through 6 as states 58 A through F.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
States Exhibit JJJ for identification will be received in evidence as States Exhibit 57. States Composite Exhibit LLL will be received in evidence as States Composite Exhibit 58 A through F.
Ms. Kensey, on the same day that you took the gunshot residue kit from Mr. Barrow, did you also take a photograph of him
Yes, ma'am, I did.
and what he was wearing that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And what day did that occur on?
September 13th, which was a Sunday
Okay.
of 2015.
So it was the same calendar day as the shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing defense where it's been marked for states identification as states FFF and states GGG.
Kensey, I'm showing you it's been marked for identification as states FFF. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Those are photographs that I took of Mr. Barrow.
Okay. And states GGG.
Yes, ma'am, that is one of the photographs that I took of Mr. Barrow.
Okay. And is the printed out photo a fair and accurate representation of what Mr. Barrow looked like and was wearing on September 13th of 2015 when you interacted with him at the sheriff's office?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would move into evidence states FFF and states GGG.
It's the next 2 number exhibits.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
State's Exhibit FFF for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 59. State's Exhibit GGG for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 60.
On a later date, were you also involved in processing Kia that was seized by the sheriff's office?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And did you take photographs of that particular Kia?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did you search the inside of that Kia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. Well, no, like, pass those for you to see.
I wanted to listen to your questions before I looked at the exhibit.
Sorry. Yes, I'm showing defense now what's marked as states HHH and states III 1 through 8.
Jim, I think I mixed them up in order, so.
Showing you what's been marked for identification as states HHH. Do you recognize that CD?
Yes, ma'am. Those are photographs that I took from the Kia, and I recognize that by my first initial, my old last name, as well as my sheriff's office ID number.
Next, I'll show you states composite exhibit III 1 through 8 and ask you to take a look at these 8 photographs. Do these photographs and the photographs contained on this CD, do they fairly and accurately represent photographs that you took of the car and contents of the car when you processed that vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would move into evidence states HHH and states composite exhibit III into evidence.
No objection.
Ma'am, briefly voir dire the witness.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, are the photographs exactly the same as what's on the disc?
Yes, sir. Those are photographs that I
So
took.
they're both exactly the same?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to object. They're duplicitous, one or the other.
We've been doing that the whole trial,
They're
Mr. Baker.
duplicitous.
We've been introducing these photographs that way the entire trial.
I understand, Judge.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
No objection, Judge.
All right. State's Exhibit HHH for identification will be received in evidence as State's Exhibit 61. State's Exhibit I, or Composite Exhibit III, will be received in evidence as State's Composite Exhibit 62, photographs A through H.
that Kia, did you locate 2 driver's license or identification cards?
I'm not sure if I located them myself. It was a joint effort between me and a couple of the detectives that were on the scene, but we did locate 2 driver's license.
Within the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you photograph those 2?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Each one individually?
Yes, ma'am.
And are they contained in the photographs that we just looked at?
Yes, ma'am.
And whose identification cards or driver's license was each one?
One was Joshua Rainey, and the other one was Gary Edward King.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask to publish to the jury states composite 58A through F, states 60, and
62.
state 62 composite.
All right, you may publish. You're using the printed? Or
Yes.
just one of the printed? Because the printed, okay, the printed is 58,
Yes, 58, A through F,
60,
60.
and 62. All right, you may. Council approach while that's going on. Mr. Bankowitz?
No questions, Your Honor. Well, yes. Did you do any forensics to determine who owned the vehicle, the Kia?
No, sir, I did not.
Were you asked to by anyone?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Gorley?
Ms. Kensey, what time did you perform the GSR test on Mr. Barrow?
May I return my report
Sure,
for that?
absolutely. They asked about the GSR test during the direct examination, Your Honor.
I suppose. All right.
$10.56 and $10.57.
Did you perform any GSR tests on the clothing of Mr. Barrow?
No, sir, I did not.
Were you asked to perform any GSR tests on the clothing of Mr. Barrow?
No, sir, I was not.
No question.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Is the witness excused? Ma'am, you can go about your business. Call your next witness.
Steve, we recall Michael Dodd.
Still under it.
I was asking about the search of the black key.
Yes.
I want to show you these 2 photographs, State's Exhibits 62G and 62H. 62G, whose driver's license is that?
Joshua Rainey,
And 62H.
Gary King.
Where in the car was the driver's license of Gary King found?
I believe in the center console.
What about the driver's license of Mr. Barrow?
I'll have to refer back here. The front console, Gary King was located in the enclosed console storage, and the Joshua Rainey is located in the open area storage. Oh, I'm sorry. Gary King ID was located in the enclosed console storage, and Rainey was located in the open area storage of the console, like, in the front.
Nothing further?
Mr. Bankowitz?
No cross, Judge.
No questions, Your Honor.
No cross.
Witness excused?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you can go about your business. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not quite 5 o'clock, so that's better than after 5 o'clock. We've had a long day and a place to stop. Based on what the lawyers are telling me, we're making very good progress. not anticipating any major changes to our schedule, other than it may be a little less time than we were reporting earlier, but things can change, so. But again, remember what you're supposed to avoid. Television news, the Ocala Star banner, the Ocala.com website, Facebook. But those are the major things. And obviously, avoid putting yourself in a position where someone will say something to you based on what they're watching and reading outside. But with that, have a very pleasant evening, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Jury's out of the courtroom. Be in recess till tomorrow at 8:30.
Your Honor, may I inquire about our witnesses?
Yes, sir.
When do you want them?
Monday morning, crack of dawn. First thing Monday morning.
Monday morning? Great.
Yes, all of them. Okay, they can wait and we'll sort it out. So,
We're working on it. We're working on it.
On that subject, we've been given an address for somebody named James Wilson, and we're completely unable to find that person.
okay.
Judge, both Mr. Gorley and I are working on that. I hope to have an answer by tomorrow morning. And
If you can you have it here tomorrow
I-
at 3 o'clock with that?
that's going to be my attempt, hopefully before 3 o'clock, but yes.
Is there a problem? Yeah.
No, I mean, he has the contact information.
Okay, that's fine. All right.